I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did. It's the If It's Sports Podcast, episode number 11. This is Josh. I got my main man Trav here, coming off of a great interview with Thomas Jones that we just recorded. So these interviews are something that we're really looking to do, and to be able to help us get guests like Thomas Jones in the future. One thing you can really do to help us out will be to go out to your favorite podcast platforms, whether it's iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, and just go ahead and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, just go ahead and leave us a review. That really helps when people come to look at our podcast. If they see people are reviewing it and they're active with us and engaging, we can maybe get some guests, some more guests like Thomas Jones in the future.
Yep, we really need you guys to go out and follow us, like us, subscribe to us, like Josh said, on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you want to listen to us at. That way we can bring you more guests like Thomas Jones.
Yeah, that's enough of our commercials, so let's go ahead and get into the sports.
All right, Josh, let's go ahead and get this kicked off. Let's go ahead and start off with some college football. Just a quick recap of Week 8. Saturday's slate of games had a big matchup, a big rivalry game that had Tennessee at number 1 Alabama, even though we kind of knew what the outcome was going to be in that game. So Alabama ended up winning that game 45-7. We talked about it last week, that a Tennessee win here could possibly get UT's head coach Butch Jones off the hot seat. How do you think this game affected his status, Josh?
I definitely don't think it helped it any at all. Losing that bad to one of your rivals. It wouldn't be Tennessee football if the rumor mill wasn't starting out that John Gruden is coming down there to take the coaching vacancy. That would be left by Butch Jones. And Tennessee fans are already calling for Gruden to come into the house. They got some more bad news. John Kelly, their star running back, he got kicked off the team this week with a marijuana possession charge. So that's not going to help them any at all. Looking forward on Tennessee's schedule, they've still got UK, Mizzou, LSU, and Vandy for SEC teams that are left on there. There's a good chance that they may not win another game in the SEC this year.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good for Tennessee and head coach Butch Jones, but like you said, they were playing number 1 Alabama, just playing really good football right now, showing us, the reason why they are number 1. Their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, still playing really good football, had 198 yards in the air and a touchdown. I mean, this guy still looks cool, calm, and collected to me. I still haven't really seen him sweat, Josh.
It'll be interesting to see if we ever see Alabama playing from behind, how he's able to do. He hasn't had a game where he's had to go out there and pass the ball 30 or 40 times a game. Right now, their ground game is taking care of it. He's able to run the ball pretty good. But if they're playing from behind, I don't know. I mean, I do question that. Does he have the ability to throw the ball down the field if they need to? So we'll have to see how that plays out. Maybe in an SEC championship game if they get there versus Georgia. I guess the really big game that we had this week was Michigan versus Penn State. What should be a really good game didn't turn out to be that good of a game either.
Yeah, you had number 2 Penn State defeating Michigan 42-13. What really stood out to me in this game, Josh, was the quarterback play by Trace McSorley. He had 282 yards, but he ran the ball really well also in this game. I think he ran for 3 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley, the running back, was explosive once again. Had some big runs in this game, some big catches out of the backfield. Penn State, they look like the number 2 team in the country right now, and looks like that's going to be a big matchup between them and Alabama at some point.
Yeah, it looks really good for Penn State right now. It was a huge win for them. They went in there and did something, 5 touchdowns on the ground versus a pretty tough Michigan defense up to this point. They hadn't been giving up a lot of rushing touchdowns. They just, dominated the ball on the ground versus Michigan. Big plays, what was it, a big run early in the game by Barkley.
Big run. Second play of the game, 69 yards.
Yeah, dropped a pass that would have been a touchdown, but then came back another play or two and caught pretty much the same route again.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley just continues to show us why he's in my opinion, the number 1 candidate for that Heisman Trophy this year.
Can't argue with that at all, especially after the injury that we saw early today before we came on the air with Bryce Love getting hurt. So, definitely Barkley, I think, probably is the best player in the nation that's healthy right now.
The third matchup we had highlighted here, Josh, was number 4 TCU taking on Kansas. They ended up winning that game 43-0, keeping them undefeated at 7-0. Next game we had was number 5 Wisconsin taking on Maryland. Wisconsin beat Maryland handily 38-13. Number 8 Miami knocked off Syracuse. That was a big win for Miami, going up against a Syracuse team that had just knocked off a big team in Clemson last week. So that was a big win to keep the Hurricanes undefeated at 6-0.
Yeah, Rozier had a big game through the air, about 340 yards through the air on that one. Took care of Syracuse, gave a good effort against them, but Miami holds on, stays undefeated. It could be a questionable undefeated team, but right now they've got the perfect record. Then we had number 9 Oklahoma taking on Kansas State. Oklahoma won that one in a shootout, 42-35. Baker Mayfield was able to get it done through the air in that one and also on the ground. We also had Oklahoma State and Texas in a Big 12 matchup there. That game went into overtime. Oklahoma State won that one 13-10. Oklahoma State's offense, it was high power the first 4 or 5 games of the season, but they're starting to sputter a little bit here in the middle of the season. We'll see if they get back on track. And then we had one more matchup with 2 ranked teams going on.
Yeah, Josh, that one had number 11 USC taking on Notre Dame there in South Bend. Notre Dame came out on top in that one 49-14. Really just put it on USC. Quarterback from USC, Sam Darnold, has really had a letdown the last 2 or 3 weeks. Had an interception and a fumble in this game. I think Darnold started off, coming into the season as one of the top-rated quarterback prospects to, be entering the NFL draft.
Yeah, he was up there on everybody's board.
Yeah, so I just think these last few weeks he's been less than stellar, and it's kind of fallen off a little bit. So, just some of his decision-making has been kind of poor. His accuracy down the field's been off. The mechanics in the pocket just not looking solid like we expect to see out of him, being one of the top-rated quarterbacks coming into the year.
Yeah, I definitely think his tape last year is going to be better than this year, at least so far through the season. If he gets hot, through the end of the season, could put up some good numbers there. That may help his stock. When it comes time for combine and all that, on paper he's going to have all the numbers that they're going to want to see there. But just on the field performance this year, he's not getting it done.
He's definitely going to need some Gruden quarterback camp, I believe, if he's going to go into the NFL draft. There.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And then the last game that we really want to take a look at there was Virginia Tech with that big offensive outpouring against UNC. I thought UNC might give them a little bit of a battle on that one, but that game just got out of hand quick.
Yeah, Virginia Tech just really showing that they're a team to be reckoned with in the ACC and outside the ACC. So it's going to be interesting to see how they finish up the season and who they possibly get matched up with there in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, how about another big ACC game that took place, between ranked teams, but it was Louisville versus your Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, Josh, this was another tough loss by my Seminoles. Had every opportunity to win this game. Tied going down, with just a few minutes left in the game. James Blackman played an outstanding game. I think he finished with around 250 yards. The defense, played good enough to give themselves a chance at the end. Basically came down to an option play. Blackman and the running back did not run that option too well. The mesh point just wasn't how it needed to be, and basically fumbled. Louisville picked it up, ended up recovering that and taking the ball down the field, kicking a field goal to win that one, 31-28. So just another devastating loss for the Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, this defense, I thought they were going to be a top-ranked defense on the year, but they looked a little suspect here in a couple of games. That Alabama game, first game of the year, I think that's really threw them off kilter. Got some injuries coming out of that game, and the defense just hasn't been right since then. Some other games that we just wanted to recap real quick there was Cal had the big upset last week against Washington State. They didn't keep that momentum going there. They ended up losing to Arizona in double overtime there, 45-44. And then Kentucky was in a good position in the SEC East, but they went to Mississippi State and took a bad loss in that one, 45-7. So we've got a big bunch up there in the middle with Kentucky, South Carolina, and the Gators all tied for second in the East. All right, and that recaps all the games there from Week 8. How about some individual performances that we had? Let's go ahead and hand out some of those helmet stickers. Who you got this week, Trav?
All right, starting off with my helmet stickers, I'm going to go with my first one. I'm going to give it to Baker Mayfield. Let's go ahead and slap a helmet sticker on there for him. Came out with a big road win there in Manhattan. He finished with 2 rushing touchdowns, and he also threw for 2 touchdowns. So got to give Baker Mayfield one of our helmet stickers this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's Baker Mayfield or nothing there with the Oklahoma team. I mean, if he's not putting up 35, 40 points for them, that defense is giving up a lot of points to some middle-of-the-pack teams there. So he's going to have to, for the rest of the season, I think, put up these big numbers.
Definitely, Josh. My second helmet sticker, I'm going to go out and give that one to Trace McSorley from Penn State. Had a big game. Ran for a career-high 3 touchdowns in this game. Over 70 rushing yards. I think he threw for about 280 yards. And basically just put that team on his shoulders and willed that win there against Michigan, and you saw what the outcome was in that one.
Oh, that guy, he plays for Penn State, right?
Yeah, he plays for Penn State.
I thought you only gave helmet stickers to one guy from Penn State.
Well, not so fast, because I've got a third helmet sticker.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and give a third helmet sticker out. I don't think that's been done before on the show.
Yeah, this is a first right here.
So it wouldn't be the helmet sticker segment if I did not give a helmet sticker to my man Saquon Barkley out of Penn State, the running back, just explosive all over the field that last game. 108 yards on the ground on 15 carries with 2 touchdowns. Took a direct snap, 69 yards on the second play of the game for a touchdown, and also caught a pass out of the backfield that he kind of bobbled, hauled it back in, and held on to that one for a touchdown. So, I mean, this guy, like we said all year, he's explosive out of the backfield, whether it's through the air or on the ground. So, like I said, I gotta say, he's probably the best player in the country right now to me, and still that number 1 leading Heisman candidate.
It makes it official. It's an official helmet sticker segment when Trav gives out one to Saquon Barkley.
All right, Josh. Week 8 helmet stickers. Who you got?
I'm going to go ahead and give one out to Will Greer, quarterback for West Virginia. 5 touchdowns on the day versus Baylor, 375 yards through the air. This was against Baylor, probably not one of the best teams that there was, but Greer was doing what he needed to do to get this win. Really came down to which team had the ball last. And then my other helmet sticker goes to a big performance in a big game. That was Josh Adams, running back for Notre Dame. He had 191 yards, 3 touchdowns, big game versus USC. So, he really came through in that one for the Fighting Irish.
All right, games to watch in Week 9. We saw the first one tonight, Josh, number 20 Stanford taking on Oregon State.
They got lucky in this one. It looked like it was going to be an upset by the Beavers, but Oregon State fumbled the ball late into the game. There was about 2 or 3 minutes left in it, just trying to run the ball up the middle, and they fumbled. Stanford was able to come back through a fade route to the corner of the end zone. Big guy came up and posted up a smaller cornerback, and they're coming out with that win, 15-14. But like we said earlier, there was bad news in this game for Stanford as Bryce Love left the game early in the first half. So we'll have to see what his status is for the rest of the year. He was really putting up some good numbers for them.
Yeah, just a crazy finish to that one. Looked like Oregon State was going to hold on for the upset, but big fumble there with about 2.5 minutes left, which allowed Stanford to drive the ball down the field and get that win on. I think they had like 2 or 3 opportunities. A couple penalties kept giving them opportunities there for that last play.
For sure.
Kicking off Saturday, the first game we're going to be looking at 12 p.m. on ABC. We've got number 11, Oklahoma State, taking on number 22, West Virginia. So Oklahoma State going up to Morgantown. This should be a pretty good game. Should be a high-scoring game. Both teams got some offense there, not a lot of defense. So be interesting to see how that one ends up.
Yeah, that's going to get Saturday started. That's your 12 o'clock game. Getting ready to get into that 3:30 time slot. I think you're going to have to go out and purchase about 4 TVs from your local electronics store.
Yeah, it looks like we got 4 games kicking off at 3:30. First one being number 2, Penn State at Ohio State. So
probably the biggest game of the week.
Yeah, so just that environment, Penn State in the horseshoe there in Columbus. It's going to be a big game. Penn State's trying to stay undefeated, keep their playoff spot on lock. Ohio State desperate for this win because they're kind of on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, let's get them in the picture if they win this game.
Yeah, they're sitting there with that one loss, so this would be a huge win for them if they can go in there and get Penn State. Probably move them up into the top four, get them in that playoff spot.
And then on CBS, we've got the Gators taking on Georgia in the largest outdoor cocktail party. I know they don't call it that anymore, but I'll always call it that, neutral site game. Georgia a heavy favorite in this game. Florida's offense, I just don't think can keep up with them, but it's a rivalry game. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff happen in this one. This would really upset it for Georgia. Could knock them out of the playoff picture, especially if they go in and have to play Alabama in a championship game and lose that one. So it's a must-win for Georgia.
Definitely. I know you're a Florida Gator fan, Josh, but I just don't see number 3 Georgia taking an L on this one. I mean, with the way Nick Chubb's running the ball, and then their quarterback Fromm's been playing pretty consistent all year. So that's going to be a tough one there for your boys to go in and, hold off Georgia in that one.
Wouldn't argue with you at all on that one. I mean, I'd love to see an upset, but the odds on this one, I just don't see it being on the Gator side at all. Another big game that we've got coming in the Big 12 is going to be TCU taking on Iowa State. This game's going to be on ABC, 3:30 time slot, so working that remote pretty hard. This Iowa State team, they've already upset Oklahoma on the year. We'll see if they can do that with TCU. TCU's a little bit more balanced team, so I think TCU's got a really good chance to win this one, but that would be another huge upset in the Big 12 if Iowa State was able to pull that off.
Yeah, it would, Josh. High-powered offense with TCU. It's going to be a tough task for Iowa State.
Then you're going to have to flip over to NBC and check this next game out too.
Yeah, you got number 14, NC State, taking on number 9, Notre Dame on NBC at 3:30. Big game for both teams. Right now, both teams are sitting at 6-1. Once again, on the outside looking in at that playoff picture. So both teams looking for a win here. NC State trying to get to that ACC championship game. Notre Dame, of course, not in a conference, but still trying to get as many wins as they can to give themselves the best shot to get into that playoff picture.
Yeah, I mean, if NC State was to win this game, it gives them a good, strong victory right there. Then they're going to have Clemson later on in the year. If they was to get that one, that's got a one-loss team right there, 2 strong victories at the end of the season. I think that would look really good in the voters' eyes. So those are really the games that we're highlighting for this week in college football. There's a couple games later in the evening there, but we'll let you make a decision if you really want to watch those. Before we go any further, Trav, I think our good buddy Jamie H. called in here. Let's go ahead and get to his call.
Hey, guys, this is Jamie. I'm going to try this again. I was just going to say that was a great interview with Thomas Jones. It's really top-notch, and he was a beast when he played at Palvera, that's for sure. But also I had a question. If you think that if Alabama and Georgia both stay undefeated and meet in the SEC championship game, does a loser still make the Final Four playoff? There's some talk that they wouldn't, but then they're also saying that they may get 2 Big Ten teams into the playoffs. I guess that'd be Penn State and Ohio State. So just your thoughts on that. Again, a great show. Talk to you later.
All right, Josh. So you got Jamie here coming with another call. He feels like if Alabama and Georgia meet in the SEC championship game, would the loser of that one be out of that playoff race?
I think possibly it could happen there. I think we'd have to see TCU lose a game and go out on there. If TCU stays undefeated, I've got them probably at Georgia State at number 3 with a loss to Alabama. And then, you're going to have the winner of the Ohio State-Penn State game there probably battling out. But I think we should really dig just a little bit deeper into some of these teams and see what they've got for the rest of the season, just to kind of see how this playoff brackets could break down.
Yeah, so let's start with number 1, Alabama. Looks like their remaining games are going to be LSU and Auburn. Then they're, of course, going to have that SEC championship game, which is probably going to be most likely against Georgia. So Alabama, they're going to have to win that SEC championship game. I feel like even if Alabama loses that SEC championship game against Georgia, I feel like the voters will keep them in that top 4. Georgia, on the other hand, I feel like if they lose that SEC championship game, they may fall out of that playoff picture.
Good possibility on that one. If we take a look at Penn State, I think they got to take care of the business this week. They've got Ohio State. They win that one. They've got a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. Michigan State, which could be a good game. Rutgers, Nebraska, and Maryland. So nothing really scary on the end of that schedule. Then they go into the Big Ten championship game and likely taking on Wisconsin in that battle. Wisconsin definitely has the easiest schedule out of anybody, I think, in college football this season. Not much left on their schedule at all. Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota. Michigan game may be a little bit scary on that one, but I would think Wisconsin would enter that game as a favorite. So they would be on the opposite side of the Penn State-Ohio State winner playing in that Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's sitting at 7-0 right now. They're just kind of sitting back, waiting on somebody to lose so they can slip back up into that playoff picture. So
that's definitely the way I think that's going to play out. TCU, on the other hand, they're ranked number 4 right now. They've got one big game left on their schedule. That's going to be against Oklahoma. And then the Big 12 this year finally has a conference championship game back again. But they're not doing divisions. The way that they have theirs set up is the number 1 and the number 2 ranked teams in that whole conference are going to play each other. So it could be another matchup against Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, depending on how they play each other. So TCU has a little tougher road.
Tougher road to travel than the other 3. So, and then number 3 Georgia, they do still have Florida, like you said, this weekend. Carolina, Auburn, and then that SEC championship game. I think they do have a Georgia Tech game, the game against Georgia Tech left. So Georgia Tech has been known, to play some teams tough with that triple option that they run, just that ball control offense. So that could be a big matchup there the last week for Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could throw a monkey wrench in it all. It's hard to get prepared for them, especially if you're looking ahead to a SEC championship matchup versus Alabama. So we'll have to see how that goes. And then one other team that we kind of just wanted to look at was Miami. Their schedule, they've got Virginia Tech and Notre Dame left on that schedule. Some big games to play, but they are undefeated right now. And then 2 other teams, I guess. We've got South Florida and UFC. Both are undefeated. But they're pretty low right now in the rankings to be making a run for the playoffs, number 17 and 18, and they do play each other at the end of the season.
Yeah, I just don't see either one of those teams, being popular enough with the voters to jump that far up, being down, at 17 and 18 right now. One team I would like to mention is Notre Dame. They're sitting at 6-1. They moved up 4 spots after their win last week. So, a couple of losses here and there. Notre Dame finishing out strong. I guess there's an outside chance they could slip into the playoffs some kind of way. Notre Dame is a pretty popular team with the voters.
Yeah, anytime they can get them into a big bowl game there at the end of the year, they like the way that the Notre Dame fans travel, so that always helps. Plus, they're not in a conference, so they don't have a conference game to end the season with. So, some of these other teams will beat each other up and take a couple losses there into the season. And Notre Dame may be able to jump in to fill one of those 4 spots.
It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years. 40 years.
All right, Trav, another week in the NFL. We're in Week 7. What do you have for your big stories?
Week 7 NFL big stories. You'll probably like this one. I thought about this. What was the big story for me taken away from Week 7? Mm-hmm. And out of everything, I think the biggest story is your Philadelphia Eagles right now.
I can't argue with you there.
Yeah, we need some applause right there because
we don't have any applause now.
All right, so yeah, Carson Wentz and his emergence as one of the league's top quarterbacks. He just seems to be doing everything right now. He's got your Eagles sitting at 6-1. This guy's effective whether it's in the traditional sense. Whether he's in a clean pocket, if he's got the muck around him, if he's got people falling at his feet, if he's escaping the pocket, if he's scrambling, if he's picking up a first down with his feet. He just seems like everything he does, he's doing the right thing right now. He's making the right decisions everywhere. So Carson Wentz, his emergence, it's really standing out to me right now.
He's having a good sophomore season. He's off to no slump at all. So that's great for us Eagle fans. I really like the fact that he's spreading the ball around. I mean, a lot of times you'll see these young quarterbacks, they lock in on one wide receiver and, they just want to throw to them. But, I mean, in that game he had 4 touchdowns, but there was 4 touchdowns to different receivers. And then, like you said, when he gets pressure on him, he breaks away. In the Washington game, I think he had 60 yards rushing. A couple runs were in the 20-yard range on that, so was really able to pick up a big first down when they needed it. Moves those Eagles to 6-1 in the NFC. A good lead over anybody else that they've got. So, yeah, I'm flying high with those Eagles.
Yeah, like you said, a great sophomore year. I mean, most young quarterbacks tend to crumble, when they get that pressure around them. But like I said, he just seems like he's making the throws, whether he's got a clean pocket or he doesn't. I think another big thing that he's relying on is the zone read with LeGarrette Blount. He's really utilizing him well. So when he gets that going, that opens up his play action a lot of times. And then he can still just, give you the straight drop back and just throw the ball deep. So, I mean, he's successful, whichever way he chooses to get the ball out of his hands. Also picked up in that last game, he picked up a lot of key first downs with his legs. I didn't know Carson Wentz had this kind of scrambling ability, but he's shown himself to be a very mobile quarterback as well, and keeping a lot of drives alive with his feet. So he's playing some good football right now, and you got your Eagles sitting at 6-1.
Yeah, anybody ever tell you how good you sound when you talk about these Eagles?
I mean, it is tough to, talk about your team like this, but, you got to give credit where it's due.
That's right. A team that's going kind of the other way is those Kansas City Chiefs. They got off to a hot start, undefeated through 5 games, and then have lost their last 2. That was a tough loss that they took on Thursday night there to the Raiders.
Yeah, the Chiefs, they're coming off 2 straight losses, to Pittsburgh and the Raiders. It just seems like, they are moving in the wrong direction right now. And I'll get into that a little bit later with my power rankings. But, the Chiefs, they definitely need to turn it around, and because they want to be going into the playoffs strong. So definitely need to turn things around there in KC. Yeah,
I think they'll be able to do it. That was a tough loss that they took there. You're not usually going to get a play. What did they have, like 3 shots at the end zone there at the end of the game with a bunch of penalties? It's just kind of a weird ending to the game.
Yeah.
Legitimate. I mean, Oakland definitely scored the touchdown there and was able to pull the win out on that one. But, I think the Chiefs will be able to turn around pretty quick. I was kind of scared to get into this one because we do have one fan that's a huge Panthers fan. I didn't, want them to think I'm being too hard on Cam all season. I was real hard on Cam earlier in the year when he had the incident with the female reporter, but we did have an email come in that kind of changed my mind on this.
Yeah, I got that email right here, Josh. This email is titled, "Come on, Cam." The body of this email starts off, this is from a longtime Panther fan on the Cam Newton saga. Well, Cam does it again. Walk out of press conference. He needs to be fined and benched every time he walks out of a press conference. That's why you get paid the big bucks. Grow up and learn to take the good with the not so good. Cam, get over yourself. And this email was signed Panther fan, soon to be Eagle fan.
Yeah, come on over to this Eagles bandwagon. There's plenty of room for you.
So do we have a clip of how that kind of took place there with Cam and the reporters yesterday?
Yeah, let's go ahead and let everybody hear that.
Is this offense, and I know you had several at Detroit, New England, do you think you guys have the wherewithal to do that consistently week in and week out?
Next question.
Thank you.
Probably good.
So that's basically Cam refusing to answer a question and saying thank you and walking off the press conference stage there. So what's your take on this, Josh? Does Cam need to stand there and answer these questions? Are you in agreement with the writer of this email?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think it was phrased perfectly. Time to grow up, be the leader of this team, answer a direct question. So, I mean, it's expected of you. You're the leader of this team. A legitimate question was asked. It wasn't some crazy question, something off the wall. This Panthers offense hasn't been explosive. They haven't got big plays this year. So the reporter had some concern over that and asked if Cam had any way to right the ship.
I kind of agree with you, Josh. He does need to stand there and answer questions when he's asked. He is the quarterback. He is the face of the franchise. But at the same time, I do see it another way. I mean, we do see a lot of coaches in the NFL, and I know Cam's not the coach, but we do see people in the NFL, i.e. Bill Belichick, who has repeatedly, said the same thing. Next question, we're on to the next team, whoever that might be. And he might repeat that 20 times in the same press conference, but he never gets flack over that. And he's the head coach of the team, and he a lot of times refuses to answer questions. So why is it a problem when Cam Newton decides he doesn't want to answer a question and, ends his press conference?
I think it's because Cam has the reputation of not being able to take the heat. Cam's excellent when it comes to praise and accolades and everything's rolling right. But when there's a little bit of heat on him, he seems to fold. We saw it in the Super Bowl.
We did see him, do the same thing in the Super Bowl press conference, but there were some outlying factors in that press conference as well.
There was, but you should have learned from that.
Yeah, I mean, in that when you had it, right after a Super Bowl, heat of the moment in a press conference, you've got the winning team, the winning defensive back from that game 10 feet away from you, answering questions and basically directing them right at you as he's answering it. I mean, Cam's hearing that. He didn't want to sit there and deal with that right after losing the Super Bowl. So I think he just wanted to remove himself from the situation before he did something crazy and kind of got out of there. So maybe, Cam is known to, say some stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense at times. So maybe this is the same situation. He was, getting ready to lose his cool and decided to remove himself from the situation.
Possibly.
So,
but he's not. He's got a track record. I mean, this guy has a track record that isn't too good. He needs to turn things around and be consistent with it. You can't go on always apologizing for stuff and then not coming through with it. I'm in conjunction with the writer of this email. Say Trav had a Campbell's Chunky Soup commercial. She would be the co-star of that commercial with him. And she's been a long-time Carolina Panthers fan, and Cam's starting to rub her the wrong way. He's not being a leader. So it's time for Cam to step up. Come on, Cam, you can do this. And Trav, listen to your mom.
Yeah, Mom, we appreciate you writing that email to us. So, long-time Panther fan. I hope you're not soon to be an Eagle fan. Stick with your team.
Hey, if she is an Eagles fan, I'm getting her a jersey, a Randall Cunningham jersey for Christmas.
She might wear it. Moving on to injuries, we did see some big injuries in Week 7 that may affect the week's upcoming games. What big injuries did you have, Josh?
Carson Palmer injury to the Cardinals starting quarterback there. He's broke a arm. He's out 8 weeks. Really hurts them. I think it really hurts them because I saw Drew Stanton come into the game and he just didn't look ready. So, I mean, that's going to hurt them. And then hate to see this one. This guy had been playing so many consecutive games. Joe Thomas, he's out for the season with the Cleveland Browns. Any other big injuries that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, well, the Patriots lost Dante Hightower for the season.
That's a big loss.
Yeah, just learned that he's out for the season with a torn pec muscle. A big injury, well, not really a big injury, but what we thought could have been a big injury was to Reuben Foster, linebacker for the 49ers. He left the game with some bruised ribs, so no breaks in the ribs, just some bruises there. So he will be in action against the Eagles this weekend.
Make the ground shake.
That can only mean one thing, Trav. It's time for your power rankings.
All right, Josh, starting off with the power rankings in the NFL after 7 weeks. Starting off at number 5, I've got the Rams. They're sitting at 5-2. They've got wins over the Cowboys, Jaguars, and the Cardinals. So some pretty big wins there. Main reason I've got them at 5-2, they are top of that division out in the NFC West. They've got a great young coach and McVay out there. I've got some talent at the running back position with Todd Gurley. They're playing really well on offense right now, and their defense will hit you too. So I think they're a solid team, and I think they're going to make some noise later on in the season. So I think they'll be around later there.
Good pick.
At number 4, I've got Pittsburgh. They're also sitting at 5-2, and they're on a 2-game win streak. The only reason I've got Pittsburgh at 4 is because they have had some head-scratching losses to teams like the Jags, 30-9. They did lose to the Chicago Bears, 23-17. So those are some L's you can't really take and expect to be up any higher in those rankings.
Yeah.
I mean, they are starting to play a little better. Tomlin's got them playing some really good football right now, some inspired football. So I was generous and put them at number 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They did fall a few spots from last week. I think I had them at number 1 last week. They're coming off tough losses to Pittsburgh and the Raiders, so a couple of tough losses for them. Now, they are getting healthy again, so, you do have to remember they were without their center for a few games. One of their starting guards had been out. They did miss a starting cornerback for a little while, and one of their running backs had been out, West, I think. So they're starting to get healthy again. So I think they're going to start to, move back up and start to get back on that winning track. At number 2, I've got the New England Patriots sitting at 4-2. They do have some big wins over the Falcons, the Jets, who have been playing some pretty good football.
The Jets.
They were on a 3-game win streak.
Okay.
They were on a 3-game win streak. The Texans, the Saints, and the Bucks. So they've got some solid wins. So, and they've still got Tom Brady at quarterback. So definitely gonna put them up there at number 2, and at my number 1.
All right, go ahead and say
I hate to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and put the Eagles there at number 1. They do have wins over the Redskins. Actually beat the Redskins twice. They beat the Panthers on the road. Beat the Cardinals by 27 points. Their only loss was by 7 to the Chiefs.
On the road, I think.
So they're sitting at 6-1. They've won 5 straight. So I got to go with the Eagles at number 1. So Rams 5, Pittsburgh 4, Chiefs 3, New England 2, and the Eagles at number 1 for me. The Vikings did miss out on my top 5. They've just lost some games that they can't lose to the Dolphins. The Steelers beat them 26-9, and the Lions beat them 14-7. Cowboys are not in my top 5 just because they have lost to the Rams. So my Rams have got to get that 5 spot over the Cowboys.
Not bad at all. If I look down my top 5, it's pretty close. I didn't put the Patriots up quite as high. I've got them as my number 5 team. I think that defense is going to be in trouble. The Hightower loss is going to be huge. Team speed is bad. I think that game would have been a lot different if the Falcons hadn't have rolled in there against the Falcons. But, they were able to get the win this week, so I'll put them at number 5. Number 4, I've got the Steelers. I like this team a lot, but I'm worried about the chemistry and the clubhouse of this team. We've had AB complaining early in the year. We've had Bell complaining early in the year. We had Big Ben say he didn't know if he could still play. And then this week came out, we had Bryant, saying he really just wants to get traded. So, something's going on with the chemistry of this team. Hopefully they can get that fixed because there's a lot of talent on the team. Number 3, I've got the Chiefs. 2 losses in a row, but they're still a strong team. They've got some big wins over some strong teams this year. And I think they just suffered, some injuries in the middle of the season, which a lot of teams are going to go through this time of year. So maybe they'll get rolling here again. Number 2, I rewarded those Rams with a shutout victory, 33 points. Put them at the number 2 spot.
Okay, so you got the Rams at 2.
At number 2. And then at that number 1 spot, the only 6-1 team in the NFL right now, those Philadelphia Eagles. Very balanced team, whether it's passing, rushing, defense is strong. Special teams have even been playing good there, so I think they're just a well-rounded team this season.
Okay.
Yeah, not to, I had the Vikings on the outside. I like the Vikings. I think they've got a good chance in their division, but they've just been up and down, up and down. Diggs, just can't stay healthy. Quarterback situation, you just don't know what's going on with it week to week. I've heard that Bridgewater may be back this season. Where's Bradford going to fall into this? So there's a lot of questions there with the Vikings team. But I guess the only good news is Aaron Rodgers isn't there with Green Bay anymore. That was our power rankings for Week 7. But was there any individual games that kind of just took place over the week there that you enjoyed watching or kind of were surprised with?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised about the outcome of the Panthers-Bears game.
Yeah, that was shocking.
I think the Panthers didn't I don't think they got off the flight there, so they just didn't show up at all. They dropped that game 17-3, So just a horrible display of football by the Panthers. Cam was turning the ball over, tip balls for interceptions. I think the Bears ran back. Their defense ran back a touchdown, interception for a touchdown in that game. So
I think they scored twice actually in that game.
Defense scored twice in that game. Yeah, I think you're right there. So just not a good showing at all by the Panthers after they've had some really good wins this season. So they kind of took a step back. Another game I thought was a pretty interesting game. The Dolphins did beat the Jets. The Jets had been on that 3-game winning streak. They beat them by a field goal late there to take that win over the Jets. Do you have any games that kind of stood out to you there?
I was just interested to watch the Packers game there versus the Saints, see how the Brett Hundley era took off. Didn't go quite as well as they had hoped there. They lost that game 26-17. They ran the ball well, but passing game just wasn't there. Hundley looks like he wants to run first versus look down the field and pass. So it's going to be tough for the Packers to really stay in contention for any playoff races. And then one other game that I had that was definitely a shocker was the Broncos getting shut out versus the Chargers, 21-0. This team, I don't think they've got a quarterback that's going to be able to really lead them to the playoffs. Simeon's just not getting it done at all this season.
Yeah, he's definitely cooling off after the fast start he had this season. So I think defenses are just starting to figure out the Broncos offense, and they're just exposing them a little bit there. So, it's going to be tough for the Broncos to turn it around. I think they're sitting at 3-3 now, 0-2 on the road. Not looking good for the Broncos. That Super Bowl rematch that had the Falcons against the Patriots. Patriots pretty much dominated them in that game, ended up winning that one 23-7. Probably the best game of the week was that Thursday night game, Chiefs at Raiders. Raiders ended up winning that one 31-30 on the last play of the game there. We kind of talked about that one a little bit earlier. You just can't give Derek Carr and Michael Crabtree that many opportunities to score there at the end of the game. One bright spot out of that game for me was Amari Cooper had 44 fantasy points.
Yeah, he went crazy there. 200 yards receiving in that game and a couple touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, big fantasy day for him.
Let's go ahead and look ahead there to some of the Week 8 matchups.
Yeah, big games for Week 8. We just start with that Thursday night game. We saw that one earlier, Josh. Miami at Baltimore. Baltimore pretty much dominated Miami. I think they shut them out, didn't they? Did Miami even get in the end zone?
No, they didn't even smell the end zone. That game ended up being 40-0. Baltimore took care of business. The Dolphins were without Jay Cutler this game, so offense just didn't get going at all.
Yeah, that seemed to be a big loss for Miami. So they definitely looked emotionally drained after this one. I think Ndamukong Suh ended up choking a quarterback in this one.
Yeah, it's not surprising with Ndamukong, but I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out with a suspension or anything.
And a big injury out of that game. I think we're going to see Joe Flacco in the concussion protocol this week. He took a big shot from
cheap shot too.
Yeah, cheap shot from a Miami Dolphins defensive back.
Knocked his helmet off. He was pretty much out of it for a few seconds. So they brought in their backup, Ryan
Mallett, and he's the one that got choked by Ndamukong Suh.
All right.
A lot of frustration in that game.
Yeah, it seems like it. Look ahead to Sunday there. I've got one matchup that I want to see if Oakland keeps it rolling, or if they're going in to play Buffalo. I think that could be a big matchup for two teams that are about in the middle of the pack. But if they get a win, it would move them, closer to the top of their conferences. My
big game of the week, Josh, I'm looking at that San Fran at Philly game. This is a big game for me. I know it's a big game for you. So a lot of bragging rights on the line here. Feel like we've got a chance in this game. We go in, knock the Eagles off, get rolling here. We could finish up about 8-8.
You've got the Niners winning out, huh?
Yeah, let's finish 8-8.
Hey, that's an optimistic way to look at it. I'm kind of looking at it. We've got one of the two teams that doesn't have a win on the season here, so you just don't want to go in and give them the first win of the season, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
You definitely don't want to give us that first win of the season. We got our rookie quarterback coming in here. I think he's had a good week in the film room. He's really studied that Eagles defense.
Really?
Looking for big things out of C.J. Beathard.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for big things for him too, a couple turnovers, see if he could help the Eagles defense out there a little bit. I don't think the wide receivers against this Eagles defense are going to be able to do much. They're a little long in the tooth. And then, really the only weapon on offense they've got is Hyde. So if we can put 8 men in the box and just bottle him up, I think the Eagles ought to be all right in this game.
All right. You can try to put 8 men in the box, but C.J. Beathard knows how to read a defense. He will beat that 8-man front.
He's not back at Iowa, man. He's playing the Philadelphia Eagles,
okay.
6-1.
It's all right. We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see what happens at 1 o'clock on Sunday.
All right. Well, we'll see if this Chicago team is legit. They're taking on the high-powered offense of New Orleans. See if Drew Brees comes in there and able to put up some points against the Bears.
That Bears defense looked really good last week, so this should be a good test for Drew Brees to really see where their offense is at. I'm looking at that Carolina-Tampa Bay game. This is always a big matchup in the NFC South. Matches Jameis Winston up against Cam Newton at 1 o'clock in Raymond James Stadium. So is Carolina going to rebound after that ugly loss they took last week? And can Tampa Bay get back on track? So both teams, I think, are really desperate for a win in this game.
Yeah, another game that I was had a star beside there was the Pittsburgh-Detroit game. See if Pittsburgh keeps it rolling. They've got a good lead in the AFC North right now with a 5-2 record. Detroit, they need to keep pace with those Vikings. Stafford, which one are we going to get? Are we going to get the high-powered offense, Stafford, or the turnover machine? So we'll see how that one plays out. And we've got a good Monday night matchup, I believe.
Yeah, Monday night you're going to see Denver at Kansas City. That game will be at 8:30 on ESPN. Arrowhead Stadium's always a tough place to play. This is a big rivalry game. These two teams really don't like each other, so we'll see how Denver rebounds after a loss. Kansas City also coming off 2 straight losses, so another game where both teams really need a win right here.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. Should be some good games next week. All right, Trav, we've got the Fall Classic underway. We've already got 2 games in the books. Right now we've got the World Series tied 1-1. Dodgers were able to take Game 1 with a 3-1 win. And then the Astros came back in a barn burner last night there that went to extra innings, 11 innings on that one, went 7-6.
Yeah, that first game, 3-1. Justin Turner came up with a big home run in that one. My new favorite nickname, Red October, as he's also known as, came with that 2-run shot.
Right.
So that was a big win for the Dodgers. And then, like you said, on Wednesday night, the Astros answered that with a 7-6 win in 11 innings. I think that was I think they were the first team in postseason history to hit a home run in the 9th, 10th, and 11th innings of a postseason game. So that's pretty big right there. I mean, you're seeing a lot of home runs out here.
Yeah, I think it's been 11 home runs already, 8 in Game 2. The ball's really traveling well. Yeah, I think they did get a little bit of a break there with some nice warm weather to start the series off. So, I mean, that helps the ball travel a little bit. But, man, it's the game of baseball right now. Hit the long ball. And
so I think we might have seen a little foresight from our man Jamie H. Remember, he called in a couple of weeks ago, asked a question about the swing angles and the velocities of the pitches, kind of, tried to stump me on a little baseball question there. But
yeah, that's right. Well, it's the analytics of the game. I mean,
you
look at Game 1 there, the Dodgers led off the game, first batter, home run. And then your boy Red October, he hit a 2-run shot there. They win the game 3-1. So, I mean, you got great pitching behind Kershaw. So if you can give him a couple of runs, you're probably going to win those games. And then there was a good Game 2 pitching duel. I kind of questioned the Dodgers there. They had Hill pitching really good, and I think it was about the 6th inning they took him out. They've done this throughout the regular season. They get to their bullpen and go with it. But I think once you get World Series time, you got to give your ace a little bit of a run, especially when he's pitching good. But I guess your favorite part of the game.
Yeah, let's get to the real reason people needed to be watching this game, Josh, the World Series. Everybody was given a free Doritos Locos Taco because of that stolen base by Cameron Maben.
Listen at you, Joe Buck.
So, go out and get your taco because of that stolen base. Don't go yet. You got to wait till November 1st. Go out to your local Taco Bell between 2 and 6 p.m., and you can get you a free Doritos Loco Taco just because of that stolen base by Cameron Maben.
All right, so you get your candy on the 31st, and then you go out the next day and get a free taco.
Get you a free taco after Halloween.
All right, that sounds good. From here, it looks like the series is going to move to Houston for the next 3 games. That Game 3 matchup is going to be Yo Darvish versus McCullers. So I think the Dodgers do have the edge there with the starting pitching. But, they have the home field advantage for the next 3 games there, and they was able to take a game at the Dodgers turf. So, this game could end in Houston there with a Game 5 victory from them.
Yep, so Astros did take home field advantage. So, it's going to be interesting here on out. Who do you got taking the series now that your Yankees are out of it?
Yeah, that's tough. I hate to see the Yankees go out there. Thanks for bringing that up. But I would give it to the Dodgers. I think their starting pitching, really is the strongest that's in the series. They probably can get Kershaw back in that Game 5, and then if needed, I'd say he'd probably be able to go on a short rest for a Game 7. So I'd give the Dodgers the edge here.
I'll take Houston on that one just off of the momentum I think they've gained and that home field advantage. So
I think they've got a better shot than your Niners do against my Eagles. You did bring up my Yankees there, and they had a little bit of news as well. It looks like they're not going to be re-signing Joe Girardi as their manager. Didn't actually technically fire him. They just didn't renew his contract. Joe had done a good job with them, won one World Series in 10 years. He's had it pretty tough. He was 1 game away from the World Series and doesn't get re-signed. And I think when he was with the Florida Marlins, he won the the NL Manager of the Year and got fired that year. So I'd say we'll see Joe land somewhere if he wants to.
Yeah, probably behind the desk on Fox Sports 1.
There with A-Rod and David Ortiz.
Yeah.
We talked about it the last episode of number 9 there about how great it is when we've got all these sports going on. We've got the NBA underway. 5 games have pretty much been put in the books. We've got some good storylines that are coming out of the league right now.
Yeah, we had the NBA season tip-off last week with that first big game of the NBA season. Matched the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Boston Celtics. Cleveland ended up taking that game 102-99. Kyrie Irving did have a chance to tie that game at the end with a three-pointer that just came up a little short. I think those were 2 teams you had in the Eastern Conference Finals, didn't you, Josh?
Had him there, but with that big injury that came out of that game with Gordon Hayward going down.
Terrible injury.
Terrible. Hate to see that injury. It was one of the worst injuries I've ever seen on TV.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, that reminded you of some of the injuries that we've seen over the years, like the few years back in, 2013, that horrible injury of Kevin Ware from Louisville.
Yeah,
we actually
saw
saw the bone sticking out of his leg. That was a bad one.
Yeah,
so,
we got the wrong camera angles on that one and actually saw way too much.
Definitely. It's a good thing we couldn't see Hayward's ankle, though, because that his foot was basically
it snapped in half. I mean, I think the doctor said it was actually pretty lucky that it happened. It was a clean break of the bone and no ligament damage. They're actually saying the guy might be back in March.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't see how that's possible, but I think they reset his ankle right there while he was on the court. So that could have been the difference in saving his ankle and his whole lower extremity there.
Then we did have another big injury in the NBA with a player that had changed teams. Chris Paul's got a knee injury. He's going to be out a few months. Houston's kind of trying to figure it out without him. They put a lot on Harden to see what he can do for the next month and carry that team.
Got a few undefeated teams. The Clippers and the Spurs are still sitting at 4-0, 4 games into their season. A little disappointing start to the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors season. Both of those teams are sitting at 3-2.
Yeah, I think Golden State they haven't been up for the challenge. Some of these teams are really coming at them hard. They're the defending champions. They're getting every team's best effort, and it looks like a couple of these games they just haven't been out there to really match that energy.
Yeah, they're not off to a good start, and just seems like they're a little unfocused right now. But it is an NBA season. There are, a lot of games in this season, so I'm sure they'll turn it around.
Yeah, I've got one guy that is off to a good start. That's the Greek Freak. He's rolling with 35 points, over 35 points right now, average, 10 rebounds per game, 5 assists. This is the first guy to do that through the first 5 games ever.
What's his name?
History. I don't know how to pronounce it. You got it?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and record that for our soundboard so we can use that throughout the season. But I'm going to call him the Greek Freak throughout the whole season.
Yeah, we might as well just keep it short. I'll just call him Giannis.
All right. I think everybody's going to know his name if he keeps that up for sure. How about your boy out there in Los Angeles? How's he doing?
Lonzo Ball, he's starting off pretty good. He's almost averaging a triple-double. It's a low triple-double, but he's right there at it. We had a big matchup the other night against him and John Wall. John Wall, probably came out ahead in that one.
Barely,
but I guess the big takeaway from that is the Lakers did win the game 102-99 in overtime. So the Lakers stayed together as a team. They fought. They stayed together. They didn't make it all about Lonzo, which is what I think they need to do this year, because I think every point guard, every guard in the league is going to be coming at Lonzo Ball just because of the fact of the trash that his dad's talked. And,
right.
Which that's what makes their family. That's who they are. You can't really knock them. But just because of that, I think he's going to get everybody's best shot. So we'll see what he's made of this season, and I think he's up for the challenge. Yeah,
I've been pretty impressed with him. He does what you need to do to win. He's not out there pouring in 30 points a game. He did have a good game against Phoenix, but I think a lot of teams are going to have good games against Phoenix.
Triple-double, second game of his career.
Yeah, so, he had a real good game there, but, I would like to see his scoring output up just a little bit. He's passed on a few, borderline shots that he maybe could have taken there, tried making the extra pass.
Yeah.
But, right now he's pretty high on rebounds. He's close to averaging 10 rebounds, close to averaging 10 assists. So, you can't ask for much more out of your point guard.
Yeah, so right now he's just really coming out, I think, trying to just get a feel for the NBA, trying to get a feel for the speed of the NBA. So he's doing a lot of, distribution, distributing the ball well, playing solid defense. John Wall's one of the best ball handlers in the league. So, of course, he got to the cup on him a few times. But overall, I think he's, made a good showing his first few games of his NBA career.
Yeah, I believe that Ball matchup was a little overhyped. It just didn't live up to it. And, one player that may not be living up to that hype was the number 1 draft pick there, Markelle Fultz. He's already out, has a shoulder injury. I think his agent come out and said it had to be drained, but then he backtracked on that and said it only had to have a cortisone shot. He's out 3 games. But
hopefully he'll work on his free throws while he's out.
Well, that's kind of what they're saying is causing this. He's had so much shoulder pain that he's not being able to shoot right. But, that's kind of scary that he was able to hide that from 76ers throughout, all the medical evaluations. And there's a lot of money that's on the line for this. But hopefully, he'll get everything cleared up there on that. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show there, and I've heard this is T. Lambert's favorite segment. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy. You big dummy. See what you did? Oh, no, you big dummy. Oh, no, you big dummy.
All right, so you know what that sound bite was for, Josh. It's time for the You Big Dummies of the Week. We're going to start off with Steph Curry as the first one. If you hadn't heard about this, Steph Curry drove to the hole, got fouled, and had some choice words for the ref. And as he had those choice words, took his mouthpiece out and threw it in the direction of the referee. That's just not a smart move. I think he said later he wasn't actually trying to throw it at the ref. He had a little bit better aim than that. He could have hit him if he wanted to. But you just can't throw your mouthpiece in the direction of the referee. He ended up getting kicked out of the game. Team ended up losing the game. I think Kevin Durant even got kicked out right there with him. So just not a good look starting off your season. So we got to hit Steph with it.
You big dummy.
Our second big dummy of the week is going to go to Marshawn Lynch, who was thrown out of a game for grabbing a ref. Marshawn Lynch plays for the Los Angeles Raiders right now, and his team was playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So somehow a scuffle breaks out on the field, and Marshawn Lynch runs off the bench onto the field. The only problem with this is, and the reason I got to give him a big dummy, is not for running to the defense of his team. Marshawn actually ran to the defense of his cousin who played on the other team.
Oh, really?
Yes. So just not a good look for the Los Angeles Raiders or Marshawn Lynch. At least go fight for your team, Marshawn. I mean, I know you're standing up for your cousin, but he plays for the other team, man.
He's a grown man.
We got to hit him with the
You big dummy.
Yeah, it was another good week there for dummies.
Good week for dummies.
I think I probably had to put myself in that section. I know the last couple of episodes I've probably been calling the college playoffs the BCS, old habits die hard. I still call the FBS Division I a lot of the times. I'm just used to calling it that. But yeah, the
BCS went out in about what?
2 or 3 years ago. Once they started the playoffs here,
so
they're no longer using that BCS system. So anytime I've said BCS in this show, please know that I've been referring to the college playoffs.
You big dummy.
All right, Josh, so that's going to about wrap up another episode. Before we get out of here, I just wanted to say we want to thank everybody that's been subscribing to our podcast recently. We really appreciate it. Keep spreading the word about it. And for anybody who hasn't heard the Thomas Jones interview from earlier in the week, go download that one at iTunes or Google Play Music.
Definitely.
Or anywhere else you want to find that, whether it be Facebook, on our Facebook page.
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social media platforms there. We always got to give a big shout out to Thomas Jones and a big thank you for coming on here, being our first guest. That was huge. It was a great interview. Not that our skills were great or anything on that, but Thomas just gave us so much material there in 40 minutes. And, a lot of new stuff that we were able to learn about his career and how he was recruited here in Southwest Virginia. So, really enjoyed doing that. All right, Trav, that wraps up this episode. So let's go ahead and get on out of here. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, please help us out with a subscribe on your favorite platform. To find all listening services and social media accounts, check out our website, ifitsports.com. Select the Listen to Podcast link from the top menu.
The If It Sports hotline is open 24/7. Just leave us a voicemail with your contact information at 276-415-0029. We'll be sure to get back with you on information how you can be a guest on our show. And remember, if it's sports,
we're talking about it.